Another Aston Martin has been added to Rocket League's ever-expanding list of cars for us to choose from. This one is the Aston Martin Valhalla, which was designed in collaboration with Red Bull Racing and apparently features in the new James Bond film, which I am yet to see. Very interesting car, but how does it play in Rocket League? How does it feel? Is it any good? And more importantly, is it worth your money? Let's find out. The Aston Martin Valhalla comes in at 1100 credits, which is the same price as its DB5 predecessor, but do you know what doesn't cost you anything? Hitting that like button below the video, and neither does the subscribe button, but if you do like this video or any of my other content, please do consider it. Really helps getting my videos recommended to more people. But with my apologies for that really lame segue, let's get on with the rest of it. So just like last time, let's take a look at the customization options of the car first of all. And again, with it being a licensed purchase, there's not a great deal of customization, but at least this time you can actually change the primary paint finish, providing that you've got no decal equipped. It also comes with the real life decal, much like the DB5 did, and that gives it that classic 007 silver vibe, which I assume is the colour that it takes in the movie as well. You get some really nice dark wheels with the car as well, but unfortunately it seems that those can only be equipped to this car and not available to equip to any of your others. You can equip whatever boost you've got, but toppers, antennae are not equipable to this car. Gold explosions can be, and so can your trails, but the engine audio again is restricted to the Valhalla's engine audio as well, which actually sounds quite good. I'm kind of not too offended by the Valhalla's engine audio. The car uses the Dominus Hitbox, which to those of you who are familiar with my channel or my streams will definitely know that the Dominus Hitbox is not one that I get on with very well. Not sure why, I just always struggle with it, but we'll find out about how we get on with this car in a bit. As you can see from the footage, the car fits the hitbox relatively well. There's not any clipping at the rear, the sides or the roof of the car. However, there does appear to be a significantly false front, which could result in some misjudged hits of the ball where you may not experience the amount of power you'd expect until you actually get used to that, where that true front of the vehicle's hitbox is. That being said, the Skyline is a little bit like that as well, and I get on fine with that one, so we'll have to see when we get into it. The first thing I noticed when I hopped into free play with it was that since I play on lower video settings usually to get a better, more consistent frame rate, when having the texture settings set to performance, it made the car look a bit weird. It seemed to lack depth and everything seemed a bit ugly. Once I switched over to the high quality settings though, the car started to look beautiful as I would have come to expect. But to give it a proper test of how it feels, etc., I did some 1v1 games and then some 2v2 games to see how it fares in a real match setting. First thing I noticed in game was that there was no 007 theme audio when I joined the match like there was with the previous Aston Martin, but that was just a nice gimmick from the last one anyway. Now on to the gameplay. My first thoughts on this were somewhat positive. Although I was playing in the dreaded Dominus hitbox, I still felt quite comfortable in this, and that was quite a surprise. The movement was good, I felt like I was in control, and I was getting some decent touches in the ball. I was even able to take on my opponents pretty comfortably for the most part. In the 1v1s I played, I only lost one, and I was playing for a good half hour or so. Ground play is always a little bit more concerning in a flatter hitbox, and I did notice that I struggled a few times without that height that I'm used to in the more taller octane hitbox cars that I'm used to. However, that's not necessarily a downside to this car and more of an issue that I experienced with a flatter hitbox altogether. The one thing that I did notice with this car though that was a bit of a downside was that my power shots were a lot less consistent, and I mean a lot less consistent. And that is quite likely down to the false front on the car's visual model, which I mentioned earlier, and I kind of did come to expect that. However, despite that, I was still able to get some decent power hits in there. They were just not as consistent as I would come to expect, even if I had been using a Dominus. I do fully believe though that it would only be a matter of time before figuring out the hitbox, and that I would be able to get used to it with a little bit more practice. Overall though, I would definitely deem the 1v1 success anyway, which was quite surprising given that it's a hitbox that I really wouldn't genuinely consider to be a particularly useful 1v1 car. But I guess that goes to show that it really doesn't matter which car you choose, you just need to make sure you adapt your game to suit the hitbox that you're using. The 2v2 matches meant that I was able to get into the air a little more, and this is kind of where the Dominus hitbox is really in its element, and it's why many freestylers out there will be seen in a flat car like the Dominus. The aerials felt really smooth, particularly when air rolling, which is what you kind of come to expect from this hitbox. I was able to make some really nice plays in the air and get some solid touches to places where I needed the ball to go, which made me think I was starting to get the hang of that false front, but I still wasn't quite as consistent as I would have liked, but it was definitely getting better. The 2v2 matches started off pretty well. I won a few games in a row and then started to lose one, win one here and there, and finished up on a 2-game losing streak, but I still finished the entire session up 10 MMR overall, so it was still a positive session, I think. I also played a few games with the different coloured paint on it with the 2v2s, and personally, I think I prefer the silver model for sure. It's nice to have that customization option, but I think the silver one just edges it for me. So I guess that brings us to the all-important question, is this car worth the money? Well, I'm kinda neither here nor there on it really. I could be swayed either way. In terms of the Dominus hitbox, this is one of the times that I have actually felt the most comfortable using it, so in that case I could say yes for sure. However, the inconsistency that I found with my power hits is definitely a bit of a concern for me. Of course, if you're a big fan of Aston Martins like I am, or if you're a big James Bond fan overall, then yeah, you should certainly pick it up because it's pretty cool to have that in your inventory. And of course, as I said in the previous video, regardless of what car you choose to play in Rocket League, ultimately you're playing with the same car as one of the others in your inventory anyway, because all cars behave identically to those that share the same hitbox preset. It's just how your brain perceives it really that makes the difference, so it's basically all in your head. Not that that makes it any less valid, because your brain is of course a very important part of this game. But I have a whole other video that covers that topic, and I'll link it in a card in the top right of your screen now if you'd like to see that one. But that'll just about do it for this one. I hope you found this helpful or interesting at least, and if you made it this far in the video, please let me know in the comments by saying something James Bond related. If you're interested, we're also doing live streams every Friday now at 7:30 BST here on this YouTube channel, so feel free to join me then. Subscribe with the bell to make sure you're notified when that happens. But thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!